Welcome. This question says an 8 ohm resistor is connected in series with a 4 ohm resistor, and what is the equivalent resistance of this resistor network? So we have two resistors, and one is 8 ohms and one is 4 ohms, and we'd like the equivalent resistance, which is bringing it down to one resistor. So what would this be? Well, you recognize the fact that they are in series, and for resistors, series equals R1 plus R2, etc. Now, the resistance is getting bigger as we add more resistors in series, and the analogy is like adding straws end to end and trying to blow through the longer and longer tube. It gets harder and harder to blow through the tube as it gets longer, and that's like the resistance increasing. This is the opposite tendency compared with capacitors, where when we put capacitors end to end, the capacitance got less. So learn one and remember that the other one is the opposite. So let's put some numbers in, and what we have is that RS is simply equal to 8 plus 4. RS is equal to 12 ohms. Notice that the combined resistance is bigger than either one of these two. Now let's look at our parallel network. So now we have a parallel network. We have the two resistors, and the current has a junction there so it can split, and the current has a junction there so it can split. And this one is 8 ohms, and this one is 4 ohms, and we'd like to make it into just one resistor. We recognize that they're in parallel, and we put in that 1 over Rp is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2, etc. Notice that as we add resistors in parallel, the value of the equivalent resistance gets less and less. It's like putting straws side by side in your mouth and blowing, and as you put more straws side by side, so the cross-sectional area increases and it gets less resistant. Again, this is the opposite to what we found with capacitors. So 1 over Rp is equal to 1 over 4 plus 1 over 8, which equals, well, that's going to be 2 over 8 plus 1 over 8 is 3 over 8. And here's the thing that catches people sometimes. Rp is equal to 8 over 3, which equals 2.66 ohms. And notice that that value is less than either one of the originals. We had an 8 and we had a 4, and we end up with less than the least of them. And when we were in series, we had an 8 and we had a 4, and the equivalent was greater than either one of them. So two different things. The things that catch people is if you've learned your rules for capacitors, this is the opposite way. Whereas you simply added the capacitors in parallel, now you simply add the resistors in parallel, in series. And so people sometimes get confused. It's just familiarity. It's not mathematically hard at all. My advice is you learn one of them really well, and you remember that the other one is the opposite. Or even better, understand the physics underpinning. Recognize that, if I put resistors end to end, the resistance has to increase. But if I put resistors side by side, the resistance has to decrease. And you can use the analogy of the straws. Analogies are always pretty good. Okay, so there we have it.